G'day everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today I want to get one thing straight. Horizons. G'day, how you doing? Glad you can make it back. Today we're talking about how to get flat horizons in Photoshop, and for as long as I've been taking panoramics and doing landscape shots, I do a lot of seascape shots where the horizon's dead flat and there's no hills or something. When you're trying to stitch a panoramic of the ocean together, I have pulled my hair out over and over and over again to try and stitch panoramics together without getting glitches in the horizons, and it wasn't really such a big problem when I was just uploading them into Facebook or Instagram, but then a few customers started asking me for, I want a large panoramic print, and it wasn't apparent until I had to start printing panoramics for customers. I did one not too long ago and I had to print it 1.5 meters long or wide, and when I started to go over, make sure, when you're going over for a print, you need to make sure that everything's right, because you obviously don't want to print something, you don't want the horizon to have a shift in it, and that's when I started to come across these problems, and it has absolutely pulled my hair out. So I thought I'd make an episode on it, because I'm sure that anyone that's tried to stitch together panoramics of the ocean, or if you've tried to stitch even just a normal panoramic, you get glitches and things that really just aggravate you and frustrate you. So I want to show you guys my solution to making the horizons perfectly straight and level. A lot of the times when you shoot with a wide angle lens in portrait mode, and you're taking sequences of shots, if you're taking it with a wide angle lens, generally the horizon will bow in each photo, so you get this weird sort of a wavy effect as it goes across your image. And that's just another thing, it's one thing to straighten it, but to try and get all those little kinks out, that was super frustrating for me. Okay, so before we jump into Photoshop, I just want to explain to you guys what sort of process and what approach I take to straightening out these horizons. I do it in two stages. If the horizon's super bowed, generally my first step is I make sure from corner to corner I try and level the horizon best I can where the end points will be, because that's where my sort of target points want to be, where my horizon should be level. And anything in between that, if it goes up or down along that line, we'll go into a tool called warp perspective, and basically I'm going to try and bend the pixels, and I'm going to pull them in line best I can with like a guideline on the screen. And then once we've got the horizon to an acceptable straightness, then we're going to go into the liquify tool, and that's going to push and pull and hide the pixels that are above or below that line. Now with all that out the way, let's jump into Photoshop and let's show you guys what I'm talking about. Okay, so I've already pulled this image up here for you guys so you don't have to wait. This is an image I stitched together of a shot I took down my local beach, and you're gonna have to excuse if it's a little bit blurry because it's a very large image and it's gonna take a little bit of time to process. But see, there's a little weird glitch here. Zoom across a bit more. A little bit of it's not a glitch, but you can see as it's coming along level and then it sort of just dives off to the left. We don't want that, because that's not what the horizon does in real life. And there's another little glitch there. And look at that here, there's another massive glitch here. Another one there, another one there. And there's maybe a tiny one there, but I think we get away with that. I'm not gonna do this perfectly, guys, for you. This is just a tutorial, but you can spend as much time you want on your images. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm not gonna make it, perfect to the absolute nth degree. I'm just gonna show you guys the process of how I get it to be good, and I would spend a lot more time if I was printing this out myself. So if there's a few things that you are watching the video and you think, oh, Tony, come on, you're better than that. Well, yeah, I am, but for the purpose of this tutorial, we're gonna keep it simple. Okay, so the first thing I like to do when I'm working on any images, I like to make a duplicate of the layer just as a backup, because if anything goes wrong, you can always just have that backup layer. So I'm going to press Ctrl J to duplicate that layer, and let's just turn it off, turn the little eyeball off there on the side. Now the first thing we need to do is we need to bring a guideline down to see if our horizon's actually level from corner to corner like I was explaining. We're going to go to View, we're going to go to New Guide, and it's going to come here. We want a horizontal guide. Press OK. It's going to pop up right on the top of the image here. Just make sure you're on the Move tool, and we can bring this down. Let's just bring it down roughly to where we think. Now we're going to have to zoom in here. Let's just pan it on the left. You can see we've got a little bit of a, that's kind of our end point. So we're where I've got the guideline at the moment, the horizon's below, but then if you come across to this side, it's more below. So we need to just bring this down a little bit. So now I'm a little bit below on that side, and now I'm on it on this side. So even, let's just go just a tiny bit more. So now on the left side, I'm a little bit above, and on the other side, I'm a little bit below. So that's telling me that the image it's pretty close, but where the guideline is, one side's slightly below and one side's slightly above. So we need to just kink that a little bit. We need to just adjust it a tiny bit. So what we can do is we can go to the crop tool, and that's got a self little spirit level bubble. You can click and drag along that line, and we can make the image at least level in those two specific spots on the corners. So we're going to go to the crop tool, and if your crop tool pops up like this, you don't want to crop it like that. This is a panoramic image, so it's going to have its own aspect ratio. It's not going to have a standard 3x4. If you just click up here, you can just go to width and height resolution, and that's going to make sure that these two boxes up here, they're just clear. Then you can just drag to the end of your image. Once you've cropped it like that, we can go to this tool up here, the straighten tool. Okay, once you have this straighten tool, actually let's just move this guideline out of the way for a minute so we can see what we're doing. Go back to the crop tool and click up here for the straighten. Little spirit level here. What you want to do is you want to click on the right on the horizon, drag it, and then line it up best you can possible. And you see here, before I let go, this is minus 0.2, so that's 0.2 degrees. So that means the line I've drawn at the moment is 0.2 degrees. When I let go, it's gonna take that adjustment out of it. So when we let go, now we bring our guideline back down. Let's just have a look at how we did. This is a little bit tedious because I'm not sure, there's probably ways to do it, but if you zoom in and try and click on the horizon so you can see it a little bit better, I can't manage to hover and drag to the edge of the screen and then it shifts over for me, and I can't find the other end of the image if I'm zoomed in. You might have that same problem, you might not, so give that a go, because you'll probably be able to get it more accurate if you zoom in. You'll be able to see the edges of the horizon more, and I can't do that. So if anyone knows, in the comments below, leave it down. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. We can all learn together. So I'm going to bring this down to where it was before. So that's right on this intersection point here. Let's go across, and you can really see how bowed this image actually is, because it's way off over there. Okay, maybe. And because it's so bowed, it's very hard to actually decide on what 2 points you want to get. So you're just going to have to play around with this stage of it. Compared to how it looks, if you look at this, it's sort of diving up on this right hand side, and on this left side it's diving down. So I'm going to try and find a happy medium here. I think I'm happy with where it is, and I'm going to just pull this down to where I think everything needs to be in the end. So maybe just a slight bit more. Okay, we're happy with that for now. Let's just move on. Okay, now the next step we're going to go into is the warp perspective. So the way you get to warp perspective is you want to go to, make sure your photo is still selected, your layer is still selected, go to edit and go to, sorry, not perspective warp, puppet warp is what we want to go to. Now when this comes up, it looks crazy. You're gonna probably get really scared, but don't be scared by this. This is basically all this is this just is an overlay over your image that you've got, and it's just all those little crosses are little, they're not intersection points, but that's just, you can click anywhere on the page. You're gonna add little pins, and once you click the pin, you can drag that pin up or down and it actually will shift the pixels. So what we're gonna try to do is we're gonna click along where the horizon actually is, where it's wrong, and we're gonna click, and if we think we need to bring that point up to that line that we've created, that guideline, then we can pick and we can start to drag the image up or down in according to where we put that guideline. So that's our aim. So let me show you what I'm talking about there. Let's zoom in. And say for example, let's zoom in a little bit more. Let's say for example here, this here is way too high. So what we need to do is we can click a point. From this point we've poked here and we start pulling this down, it'll probably, these intersection points will kind of, the pixels from there to there will stretch, but everything else will sort of remain the same. So what I like to do is just add a few different points along to the horizons up there. So I'm gonna put a point there somewhere. And I'm gonna put another one over here. Okay, now let's just grab this pin. Make sure this little icon, when you hover over it, doesn't have a plus on the pin. It just has the little cursor next to the pin, and you click it. Now you can start pulling things down. Let's pull it down to the horizon. And when you zoom left and right, your Photoshop does a few weird things. Don't worry about it. Let's just let's pull that down. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We're gonna get it. I'll show you the next step after this will be more perfect. And you can see where I'm hovering, it's previewing what it used to be like. When I let go, it actually drops back down to the adjustments that I've made. So let's grab this one, pull this down. Now, if this pops up, that means you're trying to add too many pins in one location, so you can't do that. So what you can do, if that happens, you can go to the density and you can say fewer points or more points. You can say more points, and then if you want to add, that's going to put a more crazy overlay over your image, which will give you more dissection points. So there's more freedom to move and shift the pixels from one point to another. So now we should be able to click inside here. This can be a little bit tedious, so I'm going to speed it up. Now if you get to an area like this where the glitch is, I'm just going to leave a little bit above and a little bit below there, because what I'm going to do in the next step, I'm going to adjust and fix that, but that's the next step. So when you come to a spot like this where you have a glitch, just sort of keep it in the middle, make the difference, and you should be good. Alright, now once you've got to this stage, you can simply just click off of this screen, or you can press enter. That'll save all those changes. Now once you've made those changes, the next step we want to do is, I'm going to draw a box around the top half of the image, and I'm going to use the tool called the liquify tool. And liquify is a little bit of a destructive work path, so you've got to be a little bit careful with it. Let's just draw a squiggle here. Let's show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so say this little squiggle here is that's your image, and then you want to put a straight line in there. The liquify tool is destructive because what it's doing is basically, if you look from the side and you push these together, that'll be a dead straight line, but the pixels behind here are lost. That's the best way I can explain it. Apart from showing you on the paper, let's actually show you on the computer. So the next thing we need to do is we need to go to the rectangular marquee tool, which is here in your toolbar. Okay, now let's make a selection across the top half, and it will snap to the guideline, which is good, but if you've moved the guideline out the way, you can also just use the arrow keys to adjust. But I want to make sure, I want to zoom in and just make sure that that selection's right on where we adjusted all that horizon. And this is why it was important to use the warp perspective, because if this was all bent and stuff, I'm pushing the pixels close to where I want them to be before I start sort of getting rid of them and making it like a really crisp line. If we did this before and we didn't use the warp perspective, if you started to push and pull pixels and kind of push them out the back of the image where they're lost, if the important information of the horizon wasn't there to start with, then you're gonna have a really, really rubbish time. You're gonna be pulling your hair out like I was. So what we need to do now, we have this selected. We need to go to filter and we need to go to liquify. Now you can see only the top half is selected. So the way we can zoom in here, we can just press the plus down here on the bottom left. And this can be a little bit confusing because the bottom of the image is sort of, that's where it is, you know? So you have to, it's not nice working at the bottom of the document, but you can zoom in here and use these sliders, and it kind of gets a little bit, you see here now, I don't know where the bottom of that image is, so I'm gonna have to zoom out a little bit so we can see this gray area. Now the next thing we wanna do is make sure this is, this tool up here, the forward warp tool, and we can just increase this brush size. We want it really decently big, and if you look down here, you'll be able to see where there's areas of issues. What you want to do is you just want to click and you want to just bring that pixel down so it's off the page. But like I said, remember, once you push it off the page, it's gone. So don't start pushing parts of your image off the bottom of the page that you don't want. Just have to go slowly. It's pretty tedious, but just remember it's destructive, so just go slow. If you make a mistake, do one at a time, just press Ctrl Z. See, you can see here I have the glitch I was talking about before, and I said we'll make it in the middle. So what we want to do is we want to, that ocean has crept into the portion of where it should be sky. So I'm just going to grab that part of the image where it's ocean. I'm going to push it out. I'm going to push it out of the selection. So I don't want to see the ocean in the sky. Okay, so that's good. Once we're done with that, let's just move this down a tiny bit. There we go. Okay, once we're done with that, now let's press OK. And now before we deselect or anything, we need to do the bottom half. Now, the reason why it's important to not deselect is because we want to get the exact point of the image from the other side, and we want to push any sky that is creeping down into the ocean, that should be the ocean part, we want to push that sky up and actually push it out of the back of the image so we end up with this really crisp line. So let's go now to select and inverse. Now see, that's selected the bottom half of the layer, so now we go back to filter, liquify, and we're going to do the exact same thing here. So let's just zoom in a little bit and see here, there's a little bit, you can make the brush size a little bit smaller if you want. See, there's a little bit of this glitch here, there's a little bit of ocean. We're just going to push that sky out of the ocean where it should be ocean. little bit there. And like I said, remember guys, this is a tutorial. You know, you probably want to spend a little bit more time than I am on actually doing this stuff, but for the sake of this tutorial, you know, we want to just make it as quick as possible. See here, this sky's creeping in. We want to push that out, and you want to be careful here. There's a boat there, so we don't want to push him out of the image. We want to just take our time, push it up, push that out, push that sky out of the way. And this should sort out all those little glitches that are on the horizon line. Okay, there's another little one there. This might be hard for you to see if you're watching on a smartphone or something, or it's even a little bit hard for me to see from a zoomed out perspective, but we're just doing what we can do here so we can show you guys. Okay, that looks pretty awesome. And you can see here, obviously look, where I've, this is what I was talking about being careful about pushing those pixels too far, like I was explaining with this paper here. See these people's heads, they were here, and then when we push those pixels up, they ended up disappearing. You can't see them anymore, they're gone. But for the sake of this tutorial, you know, this is about the horizon, this isn't about the people, but this is actually a good explanation on why you guys need to take a bit more time to make sure that you don't lose information that you want. You know what? That person can get out of my photo. We don't need them anyway. Catch you later. There you go, problem solved. Okay guys, there you have it. That's how you make perfectly glitch-free, perfectly horizontal, no rubbish on the horizon, no hair pulling out. You know, I wish I knew this technique when I was, you know, first taking panoramics. It's encouraged me to take more panoramic shots after I've learnt this technique, because I've had hundreds of sequences of shots that I've taken in the past, and I've just been really off-put by this process. This doesn't have to be hard, and it shouldn't be hard. Your iPhone can just, you know, sweep and take a panoramic, but I encourage people to use the cameras that they've got, because the cameras, DSLRs, even this is a 10-year-old camera. I harp on about this stuff, but the camera that you got at your disposal is gonna get the job done the best. It's gonna be way better than any smartphone. I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, Tony, well, I'll probably just stick to the iPhone panoramics, you know, it's probably easier. I'm telling you guys now that if you start taking pictures with your DSLR, you're gonna blow your iPhone photography out of the water. iPhones, they're good for snapshots and stuff. Generally, my camera's a DSLR, you know, it's 21 or 22 megapixels. And if you're taking 12 or 13 shots to create this panoramic, you end up with massive file, and you're gonna be able to print that huge. You know, you can't print an iPhone panoramic at 1.5 or 2 meters wide. I don't care. That's what my channel is going to be about. I want to teach you guys how to utilize what you've got. You know, people who have these cameras around, they've been sitting in the wardrobes, and they've been sitting around for too long without people knowing how to actually use them. So if you like this content, please do subscribe. I'm going to have videos coming out once a week. I'm trying to educate you guys on everything photography, whether it's the editing stuff, if it's the actual taking of the photos, if it's to do with video or whatever. I've just started learning video. I thought I knew everything there was to do with the camera that you're watching me through. To decide to make these tutorials, I went down the rabbit hole of what camera do I need, and then I started looking at the camera I've got has a video feature, and then I didn't even know, and then I started going down the wormhole of learning, and I still am learning on video and microphones, and let's all stick together, let's learn together. If there's anything you guys want to learn, just leave them down in the comments below, and please do subscribe, because I've got heaps of information I want to share with you guys. Like I said, I'm going to be doing one video a week. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. Hit the little notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Guys, I've talked enough for today, and that's where I'm going to leave it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.